Mordecai had to be in government for the Jews in Babylon to receive peace and freedom in that foreign land. You're welcome. Listen to this one. The Jews in Babylon could not have received the light of freedom. You know, they were slaves in the book of Esther under Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus was the king that time. Now, so they could not have received this light of freedom if Mordecai would if Mordecai would have been killed. You remember there was a plot by Haman to kill Mordecai. Haman had prepared gallows to kill Mordecai. Now, it is not Queen Esther that carried the light of freedom for the Jews in Babylon. No, it was Mordecai. It was Mordecai. Pay attention. Esther becoming a queen was not enough. It was not enough for the Jews to enjoy freedom in Babylon. Yes, they were slaves. They were taken as slaves. But you know what? When Mordecai got into government, they enjoyed freedom. There's something that Mordecai was carrying. When Mordecai broke forth, his light began to shine. He was the man that God had given the light of freedom. He was carrying the light of freedom. In the book of Esther chapter 8, verse 2, Bible says, and the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. It is when Mordecai gets into government that things takes a turn around. Of course, Mordecai needed Esther to be a queen or to be in such a place. But you know what? Esther becoming a queen was not enough. If Mordecai would have been killed by Haman, if the plot of Haman would have prevailed against Mordecai, even Esther would have died. Because the time to execute all the Jews, the Queen Esther would have died also. Why? There was a law in place. There was a law in place that would have made things worse and complicated for Queen Esther, being the queen. So because Mordecai carried the light of freedom for the Jews in Babylon, the moment he gets into government, the Jews in Babylon, their life turns around. Listen, for Jews to do what they needed to do in a foreign land, Mordecai had to be in government. In the book of Esther chapter 9, verse 1, Bible says, now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in that day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though, into brackets, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. Don't forget that these Jews are in Babylon. They are slaves. But because there is a man carrying the light of freedom, tables are turning. Listen to this one. Bible says, where we've been reading, Isaiah 60 verse 1, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of God is risen over your life, or over you. We said that when you break forth, your light shines, and this light cannot be hindered. So because Mordecai broke forth in Babylon, and he gets into government and becomes second in command, tables turn. The enemies of Jews had hoped to overpower, to have power Jews. But Bible says the opposite happened. Light is responsible of turning tables. Where there is light, tables will turn. Where there is light, tables turn. So because a man carrying the light of freedom is around, is in power, is in government, tables turned. Tables turned. Tables turned. Listen to me. Verse 4, the Bible says, verse 4 of Esther 9, for Mordecai was great in the king's house. Mordecai was great. This is what happens. When you break forth and this light shines bright in you, the greatness that you carry is exposed. The work of light is to expose greatness in you. You may carry light, you may carry greatness. You may carry greatness, but without light, that greatness will never be visible. That is why that makes sense that Mordecai initially was working at the gate of the king, just to open for people and to shut the gate, to open the gate and to close the gate. Great men would come in, he opens the gate, but the man is carrying greatness, but no one notices it. No one knows about it. But the moment light shines in him, the moment Mordecai broke forth and the light of God began to shine bright in his life, the greatness became visible. This greatness, Bible says that for Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame, greatness, then fame, went out throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. He waxed greater and greater. Light. Who am I talking to here? Listen. If Haman would have succeeded in killing Mordecai, then Jews would have been executed, including Esther. Yes. Mordecai carried the light of freedom for Jews. If you check in chapter 10 of Esther, we can check it for a few seconds. For a minute. Esther chapter 10 verse 3. Bible says, for Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, and great among the Jews. You see, Mordecai was initially a great man, but because he broke forth, breaking forth makes your light to shine, and his light is shining, the light of freedom. He carried it. Bible says he was next unto King Ahasuerus. That's where light takes you. Light takes you to a position of greatness. When you break forth and your light shines, then this light that is shining bright, it takes you to a position of greatness. Pay attention. And great among the Jews, and brings out the greatness in you. This light is responsible and accepted of the multitude of his brethren. Meaning that Mordecai was accepted. Light is responsible. Light brings acceptance. Light brings so much favor that you are accepted everywhere. I declare this is your portion. Mordecai was accepted. May you be accepted. But the only way to be accepted is when your light shines. And the only way for your light to shine is when you break forth. And I declare in your life that you are breaking forth. And as you break forth, your light shines. And this light cannot be hindered. Pay attention. Seeking the wealth of his people. Mordecai is seeking the wealth of his people. In other words, guys that were slaves, they begin to experience wealth. Where the light of God is, there is wealth. In other words, divine wealth transfer takes place. Light is responsible for greatness, for wealth. You want wealth, you trust in God for wealth. Let this light shine in your life and let wealth begin to manifest in your life.